Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. Our show is brought to you by Vuori. I have an unhealthy amount of joggers, but Vuori's performance joggers, they take the cake as the softest, most comfortable pants. Make sure to check out the description below for 20% off of your first purchase. On today's episode, we have CrossFit Games athletes Margaux Alvarez and Dan Bailey. They are both here to discuss which past Games workouts they would like to see repeated. Now, before we look at your workouts, I'm curious, are all the ones you guys selected workouts that you actually competed at the Games?
Yes.
Yes.
So would we say that these are ones that we did well in, or that we think is a good test of fitness, or what were some of the variables that you looked at when deciding? Dan, you can start.
Mine's a mix of both. So ones that I did well in that I would like to see maybe how I can still stack up, and then other ones that I did not do so well in, but I think would be worthy of repeating.
What about you, Margaux?
I would agree. It would be a blend of both for sure. I think obviously doing them again to see kind of where you're at currently, but also again to see kind of a combination of, where athletes have progressed over the years, just because we were talking earlier, 2015 in my mind, it's a couple of years ago, but it's actually 7 years. So to see that time pass and kind of see, all right, we've done these workouts before, but also how does it play in part to the up and coming individuals that are now competing?
Okay, so let's take a look at the workouts. We're going to start with your first pick, Margaux, which actually was a repeat. It was in 2017 and then repeated at the 2013 Games. We had a 1K row, then 5 rounds of 25 pull-ups, 7 shoulder to overhead right here in this area. That was the workout. Why did you pick this one?
For me, I think it was kind of a pivotal moment. That was my first year competing at the Games, and it gave me a very euphoric feeling. Just feeling the energy from the crowd and being in the stadium with the sun setting, the lights on. It was kind of one of my most favorite memories from that first year. But I liked that it was a pull from the previous, obviously 2007 Games. And I felt like it was a good test because you have that 1K row, then you still have the 5 rounds. If you look at what movement modalities you're doing, you're pulling on the rower and then you're pulling and then pushing. So it comes to, that's a good, at that time, I feel like it was a good number of repetitions of pull ups. So it's like, how can your body last from that last round? And can you go unbroken, or can you break them up? Can you be consistent? And so for me, when I was thinking workouts, I'm like, oh, immediately the 2007 workout, to see it progress from 2007 to 2013 to even this year. I feel like it's an all around kind of classic CrossFit workout that would show up and that people could, attack and obviously see how everyone would do from then to now. It wasn't my best performing finish, but for me, it was one that was memorable because that was kind of one of the moments where all my training and all my hard work to get butterfly pull-ups came together, and I was able to do butterfly through the entire workout, which leading up to that, they were kind of hit and miss, which these days people might be thinking, like, how could you go to the Games without butterfly pull-ups? But back then it was a little different. So for me, it had a kind of a special place in my heart where all the training and hard work had come to fruition, and it was memorable for me. So that's why I picked that one.
So speaking of memorable moments, Dan, your first pick is a memorable moment, so much so that when I went to YouTube, you are the first person that comes up doing this workout with a little highlight reel. So it's the 2015 sprint course. Why would you pick this one? I'm sure we know, but kind of give us a little bit more insight here.
First off, like, the sprints are always the most fun thing to watch for me. So not just sprinting in general. Obviously, I have my reasons why I'd want to see this repeated, but the events like Jackie, Fran, the really fast events, because the finishes are so close and the margins for error are very, very small. So that results in a lot of really exciting finishes and really close finishes. And selfishly, I would want to see this one again because it's an event that I won. It was my first event win at the CrossFit Games. And so really any kind of sprint test to just see how fast the people are or how fast our competitors are on the men and women's side would be fun. And you don't often in a CrossFit gym get to do all out sprints. You don't get to do a lot of change of direction. Those things are rarely programmed. So who has that in their back pocket and who is prepared for that kind of test is a great thing that I like to see displayed out on the field.
I'm curious, if that one was retested at the Games this year, who do you think would win the event, and would they beat your time?
No, they wouldn't be my time. Come on. I'd volunteer myself to come out on the field and run it. That's fine. Let's go.
Ooh. We
I
gotta
wouldn't be
let
worried
people at
about losing
CrossFit know
anybody.
that
No,
that
That's
you're
a
still
coming
bold
back on the
nobody's
field for
statement.
touching me.
that.
Now that's
I'm not
awesome.
surrendering that one too quick. I don't, man, let me think about that. I'd have to think of the field. I'd have to look over the field a little bit more. I mean, Medeiros is a great athlete. He's pretty fast as is, I think. But boy, I don't know. I'd have to take some time and study up. I'm not just going to throw a name out there, but I'm definitely going to look that up when this podcast is over.
Yeah, you look that up, you let us know, and we'll see if we can start, like, chirping around, letting people know, do a repeat, Dan's gonna take you on.
100% game.
Back to you, Margaux. Sticking with the CrossFit Games at 2015, you picked the Sandbag 2015. Holy cow, this is a very interesting workout. So many different elements that I don't think we've really seen something like this at the games since then. Why did you pick this one?
This comes down to work, but also strategy. How are you going to meticulously get those bags down from the starting point, but also how you load them? Because there was a rule: the red sandbag had to be last, meaning you had to load that last into the barrel, and then it also had to be the last bag that you pulled up on the opposite side. So practicing strategy, execution of like, how do I want to carry these bags? Obviously, watching the video now, like you could bring them down, but you wanted those to be kind of the last item. So for me, it was planning which bags do I put in at the bottom? How do I stack them? Kind of like a house, right? So you have two parallel to each other, then you stack two parallel to each other. And for me, it comes down to grunt work. I am not afraid of that. A lot of time on the farm, pulling wheelbarrows of grapes and having to, do a lot of physical effort that's functional. I feel like this plays a lot into this workout. You're pretty much moving sandbags across from one side to the other. So I feel like it relates a lot to what you're doing in real life. And for me, obviously, that was on the farm and the vineyard. And so seeing this, it's a great, crazy, because I haven't seen this footage in such a long time. It makes me, it gives me a little goosebumps because I loved doing something like this because you had to be very meticulous of how you loaded your bag. There was a couple of people who had their sandbag or their barrels flip over. So that's wasted energy and time. So strategy and being very timely with how you move and how you execute was very important. And that's why I picked this workout, because I feel like it shows highlight to individuals who are looking at not just that one element of, hey, let me just move this as fast as possible. No, what's your strategy? Did you practice? Did you prep? We had a little bit of time. So I actually went to Home Depot and I practiced with some bags of soil, I believe it was, or gravel. I can't remember, but I practiced that in one of the wheelbarrows they had there. And of course I looked weird. People were staring at me, but preparation is important. And that's where I really love this workout.
How far ahead of time did you know that this would show up at the games? Was it when you were already there or
Yeah. We
okay.
were already in California. We were already there. I believe I want to say maybe we had a couple days. It might have happened on Sunday or Monday, but we had time, a little bit of time to actually go to Home Depot and practice and load up. I don't know about other people, but it's like if you have that advantage to go and even just go over the mimicking of the movements, maybe not actually doing something, that repetition and the visualization in your head is so important. I think that was helped me be so relatively streamless, we'll say, in terms of executing this workout. It was, again, looking back at it, it's like, oh, I remember exactly how I felt, the movements that you're going through. And I know Dan probably could speak to that in terms of the sprint course, but I would love to see that workout again. Again, it won't be the exact same because we're not in that same stadium, but to mimic something like that, it comes down to that physical effort of what you can do, not only in the gym, but taking it out and have it apply to real life situations.
Yeah, that one would be fun to see in Madison. Dan, going back to you, your second pick was the 2011 rope clean event. I want to pull up what this workout looks like. It's a little bit more involved with the weights. Why did this one make your top 3 list?
Really just because I'd really like to see the new stage of athletes do it. I think this was a workout that had, at the time, it was like, that's a ton of rope climbs. We're ending on a 225-pound bar for a clean and jerk, and for the ladies, 155. And like, we just did a bunch of stuff, and now we're going to handle like some heavier barbells for all those reps and those kind of things. And now I think this is just like a drop the hammer and go. Like there's almost no strategy for athletes for this other than I'm going to go as fast as I possibly can to get it done. Whereas before you're like, there's probably, if you watch video, there's probably a lot of people staring at the rope, wondering if they should climb it yet, shaking out their hands. When the volume of rope climbs and the barbell work right now, I doubt they would even, take a second glance at the rope. They just run right back to it and go up. So I just think it would be very impressive to see the evolution of the athletes, how much more fit they are now with, more dedication and time towards training, more focus on those things, just how much faster they would be able to blow through that one.
And finally, the stars aligned between you two. You guys were thinking the same because your third pick, you both picked the 333 from 2014. Margaux, we'll start with you. Why you think this would make a great repeat at the CrossFit Games?
I think it'd be great just in terms of capacity, testing your ability in that longer endurance style. I know my time that year was 38:14, and that was 8th overall. And you think of a longer style workout, this is, I think, a perfect fit for it from 2014. We saw it in 2018 at the regionals, a little different, obviously, because we were running inside. But I think this would be a great test because you can see the progression of how athletes would attack the row, to double unders, to run. And I know a lot of people talk about this workout because they're like, oh, this is the workout that Rich walked on. But it shows highlights, or let's say, that your ability to recover from one modality to the next. Like, you can crush the row and do great, but then how do you get off the row or get to the double unders, get to those repetitions, and then go for that 3-mile run? And so for me, I remember that workout coming out. I was like, man, I'm excited for this because you have to be, again, strategic in how you apply yourself to this workout. Do you go out too hot? Are you able to kind of taper it back a little bit to the double unders, depending on how you approach those repetitions? And so, again, you have to be strategic in how you look at this. But for me, it's a great test of a longer style workout. And like I said, we've seen it 2018. And again, about 4-ish years later would be perfect to kind of have it resurface again. And like Dan says, see these level of athletes at this time, go and compete that workout and get after it.
Dan, what are your thoughts on 333?
I picked it one because this is one that I really struggled with. Like, I did horrible on this one. Usually the longer events would always get me. But what I really like about it is, a lot of the things, or everything that Margaux said, and there's not a lot of skill involved, right? It's not, you don't have to be able to snatch really well, or you don't have to have perfect movement, maybe a little bit on the double unders, and for sure some rowing efficiencies and those things. But really, it's just testing your motor. Like, how much can you just keep going over those 3 different modalities? The other thing I like a lot is it's very accessible. This is a workout that almost anybody can do at home. They can do it in their gym. Like, most people have access to rowers. Most people have double unders. Like, a lot of people can get double unders pretty quick. So they can do this workout, and it doesn't require any special skill. So being able to compare the average person to top level athletes, I think, is always a very cool thing that our community gets to do. But yeah, it would just be cool to see the difference in capacity. I'd be really interested to see if some times from those days still held up. If everybody in the field beat most of the competitors, or only a handful of them could, So that's one where I think that, like in the rope clean event, I think that more athletes from today would just smash athletes from 2011. But in that one in particular, I don't think quite as many would, and I'd be interested to see how many, if we could compare it across the board.
I agree.
So I am curious why you both think that we don't see repeats at the games as often. We know Murph obviously has been repeated. And then even when we were looking at the 2007 with the 2013 repeat. But why do you think it's so rare? Margaux, we'll start with you.
I think that, again, obviously there's a change in programming going forward, but I think when Dave looked at it, he was looking at obviously testing and pushing and challenging the athletes as much as possible. And not that the workouts that were previous would test them, but it changes a little bit in terms of, like Dan said, that specifically that the rope clean and jerk ladder workout, that's going to be a lot different for these athletes these days back then. So I think before it was kind of that constant push and threshold. And I'll take that legless workout from 2013. Dave challenged us all as athletes, and coming back into 2014 regionals, we all had the 10 rope climbs with the sprint in between, and we as athletes had to rise to that occasion. If we wanted to compete and we wanted to continue to be at the games and qualify, we had to rise to the level that we are being pushed at. And I think that's part of the reason that we may see a sprinkling at times of workouts out from previous years. But I think overall, at least for the years that I competed, it's like that's great to retest, but it's also to push us as athletes. We have to, or he had to do different things, more extravagant things, more kind of programmed ideas of like, what do I want out of this workout? How do I want to challenge these athletes? And to do that, it's going to be new things. So athletes are going to think, okay, we're going to see this again.
Dan, what are your thoughts?
So when I think of CrossFit, one of the main things I think is you're preparing for the knowable and unknowable. And as you got into more modern like CrossFit Games, I guess I don't know what year you want to define that as, the field of play became standardized for the open in regionals, right? There's only so many things they're going to do and throw at athletes in the open. You know, you're going to do thrusters, you're going to see the 95-pound barbell, you're probably going to do some pull-ups, you know, those kind of things. At regionals, legless rope climbs, the weights are going to get a little heavier, but you're still kind of sequestered to this arena, basically. Now, when it comes to the games, everything's off the table. They can do whatever they want. You know what I mean? The board isn't set at all. They have a clean slate every time they go in, and they can use as much creativity as they want. So I think that when they look at the opportunity to do something new and cool that hasn't tested the athletes yet, or they haven't tested the athletes yet, I think that's way more attractive to do at the CrossFit Games than just pull something out of the woodwork and repeat it. So I'm glad that they do that. I'm glad that they, you know, it offers creativity it offered tons of creativity for Dave. And then, you know, this year will obviously be a little bit different, but I think it makes it more exciting, and it makes the game special because you don't know what the events are that are going into it. And you for sure don't even know if you're going to get approached with something that you've never even touched or done before, which that's why our athletes are the fittest athletes on earth, or part of the reason why. So I think it just adds to the excitement. I'm excited to see what kind of comes out of that hopper this year and what they can do up in Madison.
Me too. I can't wait. Margaux, what's your bottom line?
I mean, just looking at the time that I've spent competing and looking at the athletes, that no matter what, as individuals or as teams, we will rise to the occasion. We will be challenged. But I think just seeing the bigger picture of the programming and workouts and events and everything that comes out, that we kind of like a challenge. We're here for a reason. We put ourselves in this environment where we do want to be uncomfortable, or we're okay with being uncomfortable, and that we will do whatever we can in training to get there. And whether there's repeats, whether there's no repeats, I think it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how athletes continue to evolve and make changes as they go forward into upcoming years. So I mean, I'm just excited to see what comes out because, like you said, like Dan said, it's the excitement and the unknown that we don't know. We know there's a path, but we don't know what's on that path. So that's what makes it kind of unique and kind of draws you in, at least from my perspective.
Dan's, what's your bottom line?
Yeah, I would probably echo just kind of the last statement. Like, I'm just excited to see what all kind of comes out of the hopper. I'm excited to see how they use, you know, Madison and surrounding area for the different events, and just super impressed by everything that the athletes do year in and year out. Like Margaux said, I mean, 2015 feels like yesterday, and here it is, it's 7 years ago, where it was like, oh my gosh, the pegboard, and now it's like people do the pegboard with kettlebells hanging off of them and that kind of thing, you know. So it's just those things continue to push the needle, and it's what needs to happen to continue to make better athletes, make the sport better, make it more fun to watch, and make it more entertaining. So just excited to see what happens here in the next couple of weeks up in Madison.
Yeah, me too. Dan, Margaux, thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time on The Bottom Line.